All right, so this is the first demo episode of the Dichotomy Student Podcast. I don't know, we still need a better name than that, but we'll figure that out later. And today we're going to be talking with some of my students in my tech support class. And our current topics up for discussion simultaneously are going to be focused on left and right side Twix, and also the necessity of a college education, or if college is even something that we actually need. And to give opening statements, apparently we're going to start with Jaren.
I would like to call my first witness to the stand. Bobby, can you please stand up here with me? Okay.
This is an audio-only podcast, don't forget.
Yeah. To address the question, which is the left side of a right Twix a self-hating right Twix or more accepting of left Twix?
You have to explain the entire concept.
It's a pretty complicated question.
They don't know what you're talking about.
So if you take a Twix, a set of Twix, you have a left and a right Twix, and you cut them each in half long ways, so that now your left Twix has a left and right side, and your right Twix has a left and a right side. There's a lot of debate about what now happens in this civil war of Twix. And we're getting a diagram drawn, which is also great radio, just for the record.
My pleasure.
They're just 4 long rectangles, for those of you listening. And we're designating these LL, LR, RL, and RR.
We really should do a video podcast, though.
So here's my theory, is that left and right are two different things. And I don't mean the words themselves are different things. I mean, in this situation, left and right Twix is different from the left and right directionally. Bobby, can you help me explain that? The left Twix is made different from the right Twix, right?
Well, yeah, it is. Because the left Twix, as stated, is more drizzled on the bar, and the right Twix is more layered on the bar, in the opposite direction, of course.
Okay, so the two Twixes are made differently, just to clear that up. The left Twix is made differently from the right Twix.
Yes, completely
It's
different.
not just the orientation in the packaging.
No, it's insane. It's completely different, yeah.
Okay, so, therefore, left and right Twix is not left and right Twix.
So if we applied a different name to them, so if we instead of calling right Twix, we just call them north, and instead of calling it left Twix, we call it right. So now the question reads, is the left side of a north a self-hating north or more accepting of south? Which is a ridiculous statement now.
You said right. That didn't make any sense.
You said north and right.
You said north and right.
Whatever, who cares? I'm making this up on the fly, people.
That's
So
exactly
okay,
what
fine. Let's diagram it out here. So we
You could call it A and B Twix,
right
and that would
side.
make sense.
Right Twix is now north. Left Twix is now south. Right Twix is north again. So now the question reads, to clarify, is the left side of a north a self-hating north or more accepting of south?
And that makes absolutely no sense.
Exactly.
So it's like communism.
Yeah.
That's where carrots come in.
This was the point that I was trying to make the entire time, but none of you were listening to me.
I said Alex was right.
Yes, I was right.
I discovered
Yes.
what you were
We are all shocked, but Alex is right.
Let me make one point that will shut down your whole argument.
It's
Alex.
South Twix.
Get ready for this.
Go on.
Okay.
I'm ready.
You're wrong. That's the
That's the point you're
that's
going
the
to make.
main point.
Oh my god.
Explain.
Bobby,
Explain, Bobby.
please elaborate. I'm dying here.
Let me explain it real quick. So I'm looking at all the variables.
This is a great.
Wow, Bobby. That,
all right.
Yeah,
So basically, the only reason that you are led to believe this, Alex, is because you were taught since you were a little baby child that had to be the name of a right Twix. So if you were taught since you were a
Okay,
kid
the
that
left
ketchup
and
was
right
mustard
Twix
and
marketing
mustard was
campaign
ketchup.
didn't come about until a few years ago. So what does that even matter?
2012 to be exact. Know your lord. So
That
basically,
existed before 2012, Bobby.
left Twix, right Twix.
Left and right existed before 2012. Left Twix
was
Did they
left
really?
and right
Did they
Twix.
really, Jaren?
2012.
Because I don't remember saying left and right until after 2012, personally.
I know.
Are we
I'm just
ignoring
being-
everything before 2012? Like,
Look,
did left
all
and
I'm
right Twix
saying
not
is
exist
if you
Nothing
take a
existed
left
before.
Twix and cut it in half, the left side
Yeah.
is the left side, but it is not a left Twix.
Yes, it's still the left
It is
side of a right.
half of
Yeah,
a
it's,
left Twix.
yeah, it's just whatever half.
The right side of the left Twix is the right side of a left Twix. It doesn't get
May I-
any more
may I make a
complicated than that.
Okay.
It's not
If
a
you-
right Twix
if
at that point because it's still made
May,
like
I,
a
may, I
left
make,
Twix was
may I
made.
make a point? So if you just were to flip it around, it would just be the other side. So it would be the right side of a right Twix. If you just flipped it upside down.
No.
So
Okay.
yes,
I think we've established the Twix lore at this point.
Wait.
Go ahead. Preston's available.
sides.
North and South, is this like a whole thing for Civil War?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the whole point of the ad campaign.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right, now, can we take this as a metaphorical example and talk about the necessity of a college education? And while we drop yardsticks, which also great radio, guys. You guys are killing this. So, does the left and the right Twix argument have any bearing on education and the necessity of a college education? We're going to try to take this a step up.
Yes.
I mean, I
Go ahead.
I can talk about the politics of education, but that's not the topic.
It could. Someone take it. Someone take it. Let's
All right.
see.
I think left Twix, right Twix has a direct correlation with college necessity in a student brain. Let's check this out. If left Twix, right Twix would not exist, it would create less thought-provoking conversations than this. This conversation is only happening because of left Twix, right Twix right now. Therefore, it's heightening my brain. I'll probably be sleeping over there if I wasn't thinking about this right now. Because of left Twix, right Twix, I am now more fine-tuned, I would say, and more ready for college than I ever was before. Because they create such thought-provoking ad campaigns.
So you're saying conversations such as this promote higher level thinking.
Yes, and
Okay.
debate. You're practicing debate,
Yes.
and you're practicing your speech and debate skills.
Very
So-
good.
And verbal fluency.
So the interesting part here that I would point out is that this has no bearing on curriculum. There's no curriculum for left and right Twix. I mean, granted, you could argue Civil War because there's some obvious connections. You could even argue, governmental systems, but whatever. Like, it's a bit of a stretch. If you cut a Civil War soldier in half, I mean, that's the same question.
It's still dead. So
It would be dead.
it's going to be
Yeah,
either
it'd be
way.
dead.
Do it this way so we'd have a north and south side.
So it's
They
going to
have
this
on the
point.
board.
But going back to the higher level discussion topic, that is an example. I don't think this is a normal example of the conversations that are happening in classrooms across our school or across classrooms in the country on the whole. Would you agree? Ignoring the ridiculousness of Twix.
So here's the real question: do you think this should be a topic of conversation in schools around the world and the country?
I think there should
Well,
be.
it's less of the conversation itself and more of the way we're talking about it.
Right. The level of analysis we are doing on something so stupid as Twix has real value,
More people
and I don't
are
think is happening in most
interested
cases.
in Twix bars and say literature from the not even 1800s, 1200s England. I don't get super involved in that in English class. And then when you bring up something I like, Twix bars, then I get more involved.
Preston?
Alright, so if the left Twix is now the South Twix, right? Does that mean, or if the South is like more superior than the North Twix,
Okay,
does that mean the South will rise again? Thus meaning Twix is going to make the South rise again, wanting racism. Is
Okay,
Twix
white
racist?
supremacy. They're Nazis. Is what you're
That's
saying.
weak. And all things are
There was no
Nazis.
superiority in this entire
I was
argument.
joking.
Hey.
Wow, this is quality radio, people. Good job.
Is it even go on the radio now?
Why not?
Talked about.
Because we talked about Nazis?
Whoa!
Or because we talked about racists?
South.
Yeah.
Racists
don't have
exist,
Nazis
so I
in
don't see
Canada.
why we couldn't put that in.
Okay.
Nazis exist too.
So I'm curious, I'm personally curious, do these kinds of conversations happen, do this level of conversation happen in your classes, other than tech support?
No.
No.
Not
People are
really.
like,
Not with the
Not
teacher.
even a little.
Not with the teacher.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Not with the teacher.
Not
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's... Let me just kind of ask you that. Let's take turns. Let's do hands, because there are a lot of people talking at once on a radio show, which doesn't work. Why is that? Why is this level of conversation not happening in other classes? And I'm going to go to Gavin, because he hasn't said much yet.
It's the extremely harsh guidelines and like uninteresting topics that like the way they teach to individual students that kind of doesn't promote this level of like thought and interaction amongst each other. It's more of that sit down, write this on a paper, analyze this kind of question, but you don't talk about it. You don't see what everyone else thought about it. You just answer it and the teacher gives you a grade.
Okay. I could see that. Jen?
so like in my environmental science class, we talk about like highly politicized topics like hunting, especially with like the the Elephant Man. So we view both sides and both extremities and how or what people side with, and like I don't get to talk about that in other classes, which I particularly enjoy that I get to talk about. I get to see why people agree or why people think this way. And it's like, I think we should have more topics like this, but we don't because we don't find enough topics that relate to school to make it a higher level discussion. We're just sitting there, we're writing notes, and that's about it.
Okay. Preston?
Teachers really don't care about your opinion. They sort of just care about, like, your work being done more than your actual thought. I guess.
It's kind of depressing, but okay. Alex?
Well, high school is basically preparing people for a world that pretty much no longer exists because everything's going to be automated. All of the churning workout is going to be automated, and the ability to think and that kind of thought-provoking discussion is lost in high school. Now, I haven't taken a high school class in 2 years, so in college I can say they are much more prevalent.
Okay. Bobby has side comments he'd like to make here.
I was just talking about how no, I do not have I don't have discussions like this in any other class. And yeah, it's for a lot of the general reasons, like not very boring topics, like Ryan said. Like, yeah, it's good, like when you see the benchmarks of most schools these days, and they're really focusing on group learning and group discussion, and learning through like group analyzation and stuff like that. But the problem is that that's like a really good structure. I mean, the structure is not good, but that's a really good idea that they have. But then when they throw in, I'm sure a bunch of 17, 18-year-old kids are going to have really thought-provoking ideas on whether or not Federico's Falcon was an amazing story or if it was just a piece of crap they read in English class. It's like, that's just not a conversation that's going to happen.
So is your premise that there's no connection for you personally or for you and your peers to the content itself?
Yes.
I mean, it kind of goes back to what Ryan was saying about we care more about Twix than any of the content you're being given in your classes for the most part.
Pretty much.
Which is kind of a disturbingly true statement, I feel like. Because I know I've been thinking about the stupid Twix situation for like 24 hours at this point. So, nonstop. Kept me up last night. Genuinely. Jaren, you have a thought? You had a hand up at first, and you gave up. Okay, Jen?
So Bobby was like saying our curriculum is like
Jen, be louder.
based. I'm always with the period. I don't like yelling.
Then move.
Yeah. Okay.
Back up here. You have a wheelie chair.
No, stand up.
Okay.
And you don't roll in a wheelie chair that's loud. Don't sit down, Jaren. Stop it.
Okay. So Bobby's talking about our curriculum is group based, but in the past 2 years of high school, I don't think I've ever done anything group based in a classroom before, which is why we don't have these higher level discussions anyways. Like take math, for example. I'm in calculus. I've never done any group-based activity in there. So why would I have a higher level discussion in there?
You're not having higher level discussions with yourself, in other words?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, this is probably the only class I ever talked to people in, so.
Okay, cool. I guess that's something. Scary. Gavin?
The closest I've ever come to like that structure and that idea is in my AP World History class, in which we did a DBQ about the Mongols, and people engaged and they offered opinions on whether or not they were barbaric. But I think that's already you have a selection of students who actually care in the AP class, and then you can actually get them to talk about a boring topic. But in any of the other classes, when you already have students who don't really come to school with the intention to give it their all, and then you give them an already boring topic to talk about, it's not going to get them to involve themselves, and they're going to let the one person do all the work.
So instead of talking about university education, we've instead talked about the level of conversation in a high school. But I think that's fair. I think that's a valid discussion to be had. Jared?
The Buddhists believe that the root of all unhappiness and there's another word that I was thinking of, but I forgot.
Suffering. No. Yeah, suffering.
It's suffering.
Suffering,
It's
unhappiness, and suffering is the human want. So if we create robots that take over the world and destroy humanity, would that really be such a bad thing?
What? Well, are you saying